to everyone. So let us discuss the computer types in the computer organization architecture. So today let us have a discussion on the computer types and its uses. So let us start with the first uh, type of computers, so which we have discussed previous session, which is of desktop computers or which are of personal computers and portable computers. So all that we discussed. Now we discussed to the second type of computers, which are servers and enterprises. So the word server itself will tell us that which is going to control the number of computers, which means if you have some 20 computers with you, all these 20 computers has to be controlled by one entity. That entity is called as a server, or that is also called as an enterprise. As large as these enterprises, so it has to manage that much amount of data, which means it has to manage the data in an effective manner. So why we need these servers and enterprise systems? Usually when you are trying to store your data in your computer, you may have 1 terabyte deep 1 TB of space. That will be good enough to store your personal data. But think of when you're trying to store a huge amount of data, which can be of 30 people, 50 people, still we can able to manage. You think of 1 crore people in a state or 5 crore people in a state to manage the data. How that can be possible? That will be nearly impossible. Let us say you are trying to collect the data in an organization to prepare ID cards. We need a photograph or we need the signature. So all that data has to be maintained in a larger database. Or you take your Aadhaar database where your iris will be there, your thumbprint will be there. All the information will be stored in the computer. So where you have to process that. When you try to type your Aadhaar card, it has to collect the details back. So which means we cannot able to manage that by using a personal computer. So we have to go for a server or an enterprise system. So that's what. So some computers which may host larger amount of data, which is going to provide the information for processing the government agency or a commercial organization, we call it as a server or enterprise system. So these computers will have a larger storage unit and faster computational skills, which means the data which it has to store is large and also it has to be faster. So that's how it is. And then this large storage unit allows to store sizable database. We can able to make the database sizable and we can able to communicate faster through the links, and also it will allow the faster communication of data blocks with computer connect to the network. And also along with this, we are trying to have a major role in the internet. So without internet, we cannot able to connect all those through the local connections. So that's how these two are. If you see this one, so where you can see this is a personal computer or desktop computer, whatever. Okay. So we can see here 4 different kinds of computers, which are personal computers. Whereas here we have 3 different computers, which are personal computers, but to be specific, they are notebooks or laptops or whatever. You see here, this look like a brick wall. So this will act like a firewall. This firewall is going to protect the network, which is let us assume that the left side one here, what I'm visualizing you, is the internal network, and these things are an external network. When you're trying to connect the external systems with an internal system, we need to have a firewall between them. And you can see this one here. This is a huge data we have to store among n number of users. That will act like your server. Okay, so when you are trying to use this server environment, you may have to process the data with the help of a firewall to provide enhanced security. So that's about server and enterprise. And moving on to the next set of computing, it is third set of computing, which is called supercomputer. This supercomputer is also called as grid computers. It's also called as what? Grid computers. So normally these computers are having higher performance. So this is the important key point with this. The supercomputer should have the higher performance. Where we need to use the supercomputers? Why we need to use the supercomputers? When you're trying to do the multi-processing, like you have a large scale of data to be calculated, larger amount of data to be calculated. Okay, so these supercomputers are required. Let us say someone has to tell you what is the weather forecast. So weather forecast, if they want to say, they have to completely collectively collect the information and do it. We need something of different and higher level of computing, which can be called as supercomputer. Or let us say you want to do the robotic engineering, We may have to use this kind of supercomputers and grids. And when you're trying to design the aircrafts and when you're trying to do the simulation of a larger amount of data, we need the supercomputers. Okay, so these supercomputers are in high demand. Why they are in high demand? They are in a highly demand. Why it is? Uh, because of the real-time data when you are trying to process, these are in high demand. As I told you already, so it can be in a weather forecast, or it can be an engineering design, or it can be a simulation, or it can be any type of scientific work. So these supercomputers will be helpful for us. And also these supercomputers will be costly because it has to compute a lot of data. We need to have a higher level of computational capability. So this will cost a bit higher than the normal computers. If you look at this one, So this is a kind of a environment where you have a supercomputers. Okay, and I'll tell you, or I'll like to share you a story. I'm not sure about the truth in it, but it is an interesting story to understand. So let us say an example. So if you look at this kind of environment here, we need to have a natural cooling environment, or let us say we have to pump the air conditioning here. In this case, if let us say we all use Facebook, right? What example I would like to share you with the knowledge what we have, or with the examples what we have. So let us find an example. You all use Facebooks, right? Facebook accounts you're going to create, and you're going to upload lots of data into it through photos, videos, and comments or likes, all that. And do you all know where exactly this Facebook server is located? Any idea? Any one of you? Where exactly this Facebook server is located? So for maintaining one personal computer with all photographs and videos, it will be very difficult. On Facebook, every minute where you go, you're taking the selfie and you're uploading it. Let us say Facebook or Instagram, wherever. So how do they maintain it? How do they maintain the servers? Okay, and what type of computing they are going to use? Right, it's an interesting part. Any ideas? Anyone? So what they have did is they have tried initially. It's all the stories what we hear. That what to say, the truthness in the story has to be discussed further. Let us understand that for an example. I am just discussing this point at this juncture. So let us say in an example, they are trying to store the data. So what they have did, they have created a virtual space where all this computing supercomputers will be kept there, and to make that functioning, it will produce a lot of heat. If you get produced a lot of heat, the servers will get struck down. So it has to be maintained in a cooler environment. Let us say it has to be kept in air conditioned environment. So in that case, what they have did, why can't we establish these servers somewhere in a very naturally cool place? So where the natural coolest place is in the continent, that they have chosen. Any guesses? Yes, exactly. Where is the natural complete icebergs we have, right? Let us say Antarctica is completely is all about, let us say, icebergs. For example, there they have established these kind of servers. Okay, so that we no need to maintain any additional cost on it to cool the servers down, because the environment there is naturally cool. And there is a drawback in that also. If the temperature is below that, again, you have to make sure that it should be maintained at proper temperature. That's the challenge what they have. So from this, what we can understand is, so the supercomputers are the future computing computers where we can able to forecast the weather. We can do the engineering designs, and we can do the aircraft designs, and we can also able to do the simulations. Okay, so this how this supercomputers will be working. In the next session, we're going to discuss on grid computers, which we can able to use it in a cost-effective manner and all that. To summarize it quickly to you, so we have discussed upon personal computers, desktop computers, and notebook computers. So these three are of one kind, which are personal computers. Okay, and next second category is servers, and third category what we discussed is supercomputers. The next session we'll discuss on grid computers, which are a more cost effective alternative, and how this will be useful for us. Let us discuss that in the next session. So thank you.